Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So this is going to be another book horror video, a part two, and as I keep buying new books that I think you guys would like to see, I will probably continue, doing these videos, so hopefully you guys are enjoying them. This video was inspired by a couple of things. Last month in August, there was National Book Week. And I think there was also National Book Lovers Day, which I want to say was like in late August. And I think National Book Week was like the first week of August. So in honor of National Book Week, I actually bought a bunch of new books. I bought a ton of new books. I was in New York for my friend's baby shower. Any of you that follow me on Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat probably saw that. And while I was in New York, I went to Strand, which is a really, really, really famous, really well-known bookstore in New York City. It's a huge, huge, huge bookstore with just they say 18 miles of books, like the tagline. I don't think it's literally 18 miles, but I don't know, maybe it is. And they just have tons and tons and tons and tons of books. Like any book you could possibly think of, they probably have it in Strand. Now, I love books. I love to read. Reading was my first love. Writing was my first love. I grew up in a family of readers and writers, and my mother also writes. And I've always loved bookstores. Bookstores have always been safe places for me to go. But I went into Strand, and I don't know if this was just the mood that I was in this day or what, but I went into Strand. And so I walk in, and like I said, Strand is this huge, 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 very famous bookstore. So number one, I walk in, and it's packed. It is packed. It was a Saturday morning, maybe not morning, afternoon, early afternoon, 1 p.m. So I walk into the bookstore, and it's packed. And really big bookstores a lot of the times have these, not all bookstores have this. My first book haul video, I had went to a smaller independent bookstore that, like I said, unfortunately was closing to move everything online. And they didn't have any, tables out front with, the poppin' authors or, anything like that. It was kind of just you browse around at your own leisure. And, of course, they have, everything, marked, the genres and stuff like that. But you just kind of wander around and you come across things, right? In, a Barnes & Noble or a Borders, if Borders still existed, or a Walden Books, if Walden Books still existed. I know a lot of you guys are going to be Walden Books, what is that? Yes, there used to be multiple bookstore chains way back in the day, in the 99s and the 2000s, before Amazon, pretty much took over. But when you walk into a bigger bookstore, a well-known bookstore, a lot of the times they have these tables in the front that have, the popular books, the popular artists. I walked into Strand, and they also had a section that was for writing books, books on writing, how to write, and technique. And all of the books on these tables in the front were by white authors, all of them. So all of the bestsellers. They do this month's bestsellers or whatever. So the bestsellers for August. All of the best books, all the authors of the bestsellers were white. All of the books on the how to write section, technique and stuff like that were white and were mostly white males. All of the favorite authors, the favorite authors of the store. And this is not to throw shade on Strand. Please don't think I'm trying to throw Strand up under the bus. Strand is a really great bookstore, and you really if you're ever in New York, you should visit Strand because they are huge. They do have everything. But it was just really, really interesting to note that when you walk in, and they have these tables set up in the front, and all the authors are white authors. And I was tweeting while I was in there, and I was man, I really don't want to read. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw this. I was man, I really don't want to read any more books by white authors about white life and and yeah, I'm just over it. And I said, I love bookstores, but I, walked into this bookstore, and I felt, so assaulted by whiteness when I walked in, because it's just oh, if I want to work on my writing technique, I have to, listen to these, white guys. And if I want to, buy the bestsellers, I have to, buy these white authors. And if I want to, by the most popular authors. They're like all white. And the publishing industry has a huge problem with racism. It's very insular. It's very much like, you know, there are gatekeepers, publishers, editors, publishing houses, reviewers, critics, you know, people that have their own biases, and there's a lot of like snobbery and bourgeoisie, and there's a lot, you know, like I said, of gatekeepers and gatekeepers of whiteness. And a lot of the times, like I've talked about previously in videos on art, you know, it's filtered through the white gaze, and this weight is given to these white authors. I was talking about visual art in that video with Kanye, but like written word is not exempt from that. There's a lot of racism in the book world, in the publishing world, not wanting to put protagonists of color on their covers, you know, so giving them like an ambiguous cover, or straight up putting like white person on the cover. I remember there was a huge controversy with the book called Liar. I can't think of the name of the author, but there was a book called Liar that was about a young black girl, and the original cover had this white girl on it, and people were like, why is this white girl on the cover of the book? And the author herself was very angry, was very upset, and she wrote a lengthy blog post about it, and she detailed how she was pretty much in a fight with her publishing house over it, because they felt like, well, even though you are a black author, and even though your protagonist is a black girl, oh, you know, if you put a black girl on your cover, they're not going to sell books, which is the thing that they say, right? Like, oh, that black people on covers and protagonists of color on covers don't sell books. But again, this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you never put them on the cover, then of course the books aren't going to sell, because they pretty much don't even exist. Like, the numbers are barely even there. And then you have, when you do put them on the cover, Liar was a YA novel, but once you put a black girl on the cover, maybe it's not going to be shelved in the YA section. Maybe now it's going to be shelved in the African American section, in the black fiction section. I read a really interesting blog post where someone said, you know, that they might go into the African American section, and there might be James Baldwin next to Toni Morrison, next to Sister Souljah, next to now I can't think, now my brain doesn't want to work, next to B.B. Moore Campbell, next to, you know, like contemporary next to romance, next to Beverly Jenkins, you know, contemporary next to romance, next to serious literature, next to essayists, you know, and it's just all grouped together under this umbrella of like, well, it's all black, so it's just like all the same genre. So again, you know, you don't put the YA novels in the YA section, but then you'll say, oh, but YA novels with a black protagonist, you know, don't sell. On the cover, don't sell. But it's like, but you don't even have it with the other YA shit. So people that are looking, maybe even looking for YA with the black protagonist, they can't find it, because you have it like in the wrong section, you know. And there's been a lot of conversations kind of swirling around racism in the publishing industry and in the book industry. I will include lots of links in the description box. I read a really great essay just the other day about the lack of black authors and representation in speculative fiction and sci-fi fantasy, which you guys know that is like my genre of choice. It said that like less than 0.2% of all of the speculative fiction that was published last year was like black authors. And someone like crunched the numbers and did the math, and they were like, for that to just be a coincidence, the odds would be like 1 in 5 million or something. They said like the odds would be like higher of you hitting like the lottery in New Jersey than like that being a coincidence, you know, because people love to say like, oh, maybe it's just a coincidence, and you know, oh, black people just don't write, and you know, and like that's not true. Like, that's not true. That makes it, that's easy for you to believe, because then no one has to be held accountable. But like, no, publishing and, you know, the book world has racism and institutionalized racism and systemic racism to keep us out, just like every other institution. And again, a lot of it is even unconscious bias. You know, it's this idea, it's this belief, this ingrained belief that black people on a cover won't sell. You know, but yet somehow black people on the cover of albums sell, like, but we don't believe that black people on the cover of books sell. Like, it's racist. It's this idea that, oh, well, you know, if we put a black person on the cover, a white person won't buy it because they won't be able to relate to it. So you think that white people can only relate to other white people? Meanwhile, the rest of us have to relate to Harry Potter, we have to relate to, you know, the bestsellers. We have to relate to the classics, Huckleberry Finn, and, you know, even like To Kill a Mockingbird. You know, we as people of color and as Black people especially are forced to relate to white people, and especially, you know, white boys, white males, as, you know, these everyman characters. But yet we're expected to coddle white people, and, oh, well, we can't put a Black person on the cover, and we can't put a Black girl on the cover because, you know, then white people won't relate, and they won't pick up the book, and they won't buy it. And, you know, we prize those white dollars above all, and white people can never be made uncomfortable and never be forced to identify with anyone that's not like them because they just don't have the mental capacity, apparently, to do it, is what you guys are basically saying, like, as if white people are fucking stupid and they, like, can't relate to anyone not like them. Like, that's an ingrained racist belief. Like, it's, I talked about it a little bit in my Shea Moisture series of videos. Like, we have this belief that, like, white people are up on this pedestal and they have to be catered to at all times. And that really, like, keeps a lot of these, you know, racist, white supremacist ideas cycling through our institutions and our industries. And the publishing industry is not exempt from that. So I'll include lots of relevant links in the description box if you guys want to read about stuff like this. But anyways, this was very long, so let's just go ahead and get to the book. So I bought these books from Strand, and I also bought some books from Amazon that I'm going to be showing you guys in this video. So I bought We Should All Be Feminists. Strand has a big old sticker on it that I probably should have pulled off before I filmed the video, but there we go, I got it. We Should All Be Feminists. I should know how to pronounce this woman's name. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I really should know how to pronounce that, but We Should All Be Feminists. I actually already read this. So I went to Strand, and then I went and I got lunch, and I actually read this while I was sitting there eating, because it's very short. It's actually an adaptation from a TED Talk that she gave that was also called We Should All Be Feminists. It's basically the written, you know, the written version, the supplemental material. And kind of like what I talk about in my Yes, All White People video, this is kind of along those same lines, but instead of race, she's talking about gender, and she's talking about how we're socialized in a society, you know, in a patriarchal society, and that this is like a global, you know, not just in America, because she's not American, how we're socialized in these societies that are patriarchal and that put men in a certain position, and that, you know, condition us and socialize us with certain ideas about men and women, and how we should all be feminists, because we should all be working to kind of dismantle these patriarchal norms and standards. You guys know I'm not a fan of feminism, white feminism. I prefer the idea of womanism or intersectional feminism, you know. Typically when I see just the word feminist, I think of like an invisible white before it, but this book is really good. It's a really great read. I highly recommend it. Like I said, I already read it. I loved it. I'm a really fast reader also, so I like blasted through this in like 20 minutes. So I would definitely recommend this. It was like $7. It was cheap. So We Should All Be Feminists. I picked this up at Strand. What else? So while I was in Strand, after I got past the tables of whiteness, I went to the speculative fiction section, which is huge. They have a huge speculative fiction section, and I said to myself, like I said when I walked in, I was like, I'm not interested in reading any more books about white people, by white authors. Like, I'm over it. Like, I'm over it. Like, I feel it in this moment. Like, I'm over it. So I was like, I'm not picking up a book by a white author. I was like, even if I see a book that looks interesting and I have to Google the author, I'm not buying any books by white authors today. So I bought this book, which again has a tag on the front. This book is by Walter Mosley. Walter Mosley is a Black author that's known for his mysteries. He writes crime mysteries, which was why I'm familiar with the name Walter Mosley, because my grandmother used to read a lot of his detective crime novels. But this book is a sci-fi work. It's called Blue Light. I'm going to go ahead and read you guys the blurb. In a brilliant departure for Walter Mosley, author of the best-selling Easy Rawlins mystery series, Blue Light imagines a world in which human potential is suddenly amazingly fulfilled. a change that calls into question the meaning of human differences and the ultimate purpose and fate of the human race. From an unknown point in the universe, an inscrutable blue light approaches our solar system. When it reaches Earth, it transforms those that it strikes, causing them instantaneously to evolve beyond the present state of humanity. Each person imbued with the light becomes the full realization of his or her nature and potential, with strengths, understanding, and communication abilities far beyond our imagining. So this kind of gave me like an X-Men vibe, you know, like evolution, every so often, evolution jumps forward, you know, Professor X type stuff. And it's by Walter Mosley, who I was familiar with as a Black author. So I picked this up. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to read it. I'm going to start it. And I'll let you guys know what I think. I don't know if I'll film like a video, but you know, on my social media, whatever. So Blue Light by Walter Mosley. I picked that up. Picked up, what else did I get? I also got this. I got a notebook. I am terrible about writing. I feel like I know that probably every writer is terrible about writing. I also bought like some keychains and stuff that are still in the bag, but this was the last book that I bought that I wanted to show you guys. I've been working on a novel. I've been working on the novel for a couple of years now. I'm basically in the editing stage. That's the novel, the speculative fiction novel that I'm trying to have done by the end of this year for you guys. But I want to write more like when I'm, you know, in my spare time and just when an idea strikes me, and, you know, I keep notes in my phone. I'm a really big, like, notes person, and, like, you know, and, like, ideas in my phone and stuff like that. But I saw that they had these notebooks, and I was like, you know what, I should buy one and just keep it in my bag and keep it in my bag with a pen, so that whenever an idea strikes me, or, you know, like, there are some times when even, like, paragraphs and lines from my novel will, like, come to me, and maybe my phone is dead, or, you know, maybe I'm just not somewhere where I can, like, write in my notes or something, and maybe that idea just gets lost. So I said, you know, I want to be able to write, and I think I'm also going to start journaling, which I haven't done in years, since I was a small child. I used to keep a diary. So I think I'm also going to start journaling and just writing down thoughts, ideas, hopes, you know, dreams, you know. So I bought this notebook. It's one of those moleskin, you know, whatever, classic moleskin. I'm not peeling this plastic off right now. Notebooks. I've never had one of these type of notebooks before. So I've always written just in, like, regular old, like, college ruled, you know, lines notebooks. So, but I bought this to encourage myself to write, right? So those are the books that I bought at Strand. So I also bought some books on Amazon that I want to show you guys. And the first one that I got is Sleeping Beauty. This is Sleeping Beauty by Fred Crump Jr. I've talked about Fred Crump Jr. in other videos. So I wanted to get one of his books so that I could show you guys on camera. So this is the cover. So there's Sleeping Beauty. So, Fred Crump Jr. basically does these, you know, retold and illustrated. He does these retellings, these reimaginings of fairy tales using Black protagonists, you know. So this is like, when you open the first page, it says Sleeping Beauty. And I had these books, a lot of these books when I was a child. My grandmother used to buy them for me. And, you know, thank you, Amazon, even though Amazon, like I said, kind of fucked up the game, but I'm able to find them again on Amazon. So it's like, it says at the bottom, invited to a christening. So they're on their way to the christening of, you know, baby Aurora. And see, this is like the people at the christening and the fairies at the christening. And this is like the evil. So this would be Maleficent. See, look at this. Look at this. Look at these illustrations. Look at this fairy. And he has a whole bunch. Like, he has The Little Mermaid. He has Cinderella. I really remember loving Cinderella, like, as a child. But he has The Little Mermaid, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, Thumbelina, you know, pretty much all of your standard fairy tales kind of reimagined and illustrated with these like black characters. So it's great for children to see. This is Maleficent. Oh, computer went to sleep. This is Maleficent in her dragon form with the prince, you know. So, and the illustrations are really, just really beautiful. I'm not going to show you guys the whole entire book, but, so, and I love his works. I'm probably going to order some more of them. They have them on Amazon. They also have them, I've seen some on Barnes & Noble. Amazon doesn't have all of them, but between like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, you should be able to find them. And I also wanted to say that I bought this book off Amazon, but I didn't buy it through like Amazon as its own entity. So Amazon has these partnerships with like smaller sellers. They have the marketplace, the Amazon marketplace. So I actually bought this book from a bookstore called Heritage Books and Music, which is a black-owned bookstore out of Chicago. So, and I think they actually, I know they have a website. I think it's like heritage.com or heritagebooksandmusic.com. I will include a link in the description box. And I think they might also have a brick and mortar location in Chicago. So, I bought the book like through Amazon, but really I bought the book from that bookstore. And like even when they sent it to me, it came in like a box that said like Heritage. Amazon kind of just like acted as the conduit that, you know, got me to them. So Sleeping Beauty by Fred Crump Jr. So now when I talk about Fred Crump Jr., you guys will kind of like at least have an idea of the artwork and what I'm talking about. I also brought this book by Markus Prime, B.R.U.H, Black Renditions of Universal Heroes. So Markus Prime is an artist. You've probably heard of him because he's gotten a lot of attention and recognition within the past year. I first started following him on Instagram maybe 2 years ago because he was doing these really amazing drawings of black women as superheroes. So he actually used to just draw kind of like more, he's always been super talented, but he used to draw like less black focused, I guess you could say, works. Like I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was this picture going around Tumblr of, you've probably seen it, of I want to say Jasmine and Pocahontas, and they were like dressed in like t-shirts and sneakers, and they were like smoking hookah. That picture went viral, like it went super viral. And then after everything that kind of started going on in the world, and especially, you know, here in the United States with the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, Markus Prime kind of like switched gears and started focusing more on black women specifically and portraying, you know, black women as cartoons and, you know, portraying us in a certain medium because he felt like there was not enough representation. And earlier this year, he self-published this book. He did it through Amazon through CreateSpace, similar to how I did mine. This is the back. And he, like, see, and I'll show you like an example. So this one, I remember that when he posted, I hit the table. I remember when he posted like this one. So yeah, he does like Dragon Ball Z. He does like Pokemon. See, this is like Goku. And he just does, you know, these renditions of black women as superheroes. And it just like really started taking off, and people were really excited by what he was doing and by his work. You know, he kind of like found his path and found his calling and started just, he made this amazing book full of his art. So I've been meaning to buy it for a while. I'm glad that I was finally able to buy it because I love his art. I love his art. I've always loved following him on all his social media platforms. And he's just so super talented. Super talented. Like, look at this. He's amazing. And as someone that has also self-published, I know it can be really difficult to get like your formatting together, and I'm sure it's like even harder when it's not just, you know, when it's not written word on a page, it's formatting, you know, illustrations and stuff like that. So I really wanted to support another, you know, black creative that's, you know, creating. So I bought this, Markus Prime, bruh. Bought that. And I also bought some more Jerome Dickey books. So I spoke in my last book haul video about how Jerome Dickey was one of like the prime authors that I grew up reading for kind of contemporary romance, but not like, again, like contemporary romance, not like, you know, bodice rippers or anything like that, but like, you know, modern stories of like love and you know, just adult contemporary books, novels. So I bought a bunch of Jerome Dickey books that I read as a kid, as a teenager. I bought Sister Sister, which I really love. I love this book. I love this book. This is an awesome book. I'm going to read you the back. Valerie, Inda, and Chiquita are three women looking for love in today's LA. Most of his books are set in LA. I think he lives in LA. And this bold novel by an author who crosses the gender line to meet, waiting to exhale, head on. It's kind of about these three friends and their lives and their relationships and their friendship and their family members and the way that, you know, they're kind of moving through this contemporary, you know, Los Angeles. And this is a really good book. I remember reading it as a teenager and just like really, and Jerome Dickey kind of writes about like, you know, Black urban professionals. So these are like middle class to like upper middle class people, and just really giving you a point of view that is not something that's presented to you in the mainstream narrative. So, love this book. I also bought Friends and Lovers, which I love this book. This is a great book. When Deborah meets Leonard, she has just gotten off the sex before marriage merry-go-round. Leonard, a successful comedian, isn't laughing when he confronts that crucial moment in every man's life when he has to decide whether he's ready for the love of a woman. Deborah's best girlfriend, Shelby, a flight attendant, keeps getting her ticket punched by men who don't have a clue when it comes to women, and then she meets Leonard's best buddy, Tyrell. So again, friends, lovers, relationships, like there's a comedian and a flight attendant, a person that does this and a person that does that, you know, really just a glimpse, a snapshot into like a world, you know, and the lives of these people that's just really, really well written, really. This is a really good book. I really love Jerome Dickey's books because, like I said, they're not like frou-frou romances, which I also love. Like, I love a good romance. But, again, these are urban, they're contemporary, I don't know. They're the kind of books that you see all the time written about white people, but hardly ever about Black people. And I bought this one, Cheaters. Jerome Dickey, Cheaters. And this one is about, obviously, cheaters. Stefan loves him and leaves him, just like his daddy. Daddy issues. Shantae thinks she's found her dream man until his wife and kids come banging on her door. Jake is a player, but he's been left with bad dreams that he just can't shake. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So, the guy, Jake, that's a player, is having these really bad nightmares in this book. And I remember this is one of, like, the first and the few portrayals that I've seen of a Black man having nightmares, experiencing this emotional inner turmoil, you know, being shown as a vulnerable human being. That is portrayed in this book very well. And Darnell is true to his wife, but the temptation is getting stronger every day. And while Karen lectures her friends about fooling around, she may not live up to her own high standards. So this book is kind of reminds me of like Sex and the City almost. Like, it's a series of friends that are dating, that are making good choices, that are making bad choices, and then they kind of talk all about it. But it's men and women. And Jerome Dickey's books are written from multiple perspectives. They're written from the perspectives of all of his characters. So, and I love these covers. Look at them. So I bought these too. So that's it. That's all the new books that I have, that I wanted to tell you guys about in my book haul. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you will check some of these books out. Sorry that it's so long. I had a pretty long intro there, but I felt like that was an important thing to say. So make sure you check the description box for links. I'll include links for all these books if you guys want to check them out yourselves. And food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.